Hello, friends. Hi. So good to see you guys. I feel like it's been ages since I've been on here. It's been a few weeks. There's lots of things going on here. I hope you guys are doing well. Hope you're doing well. As you join, just pop in and tell me how you're doing. How is the spring going for you? It feels like summer outside this afternoon for us here in North Carolina. How is summer going for you? When you get here, let me know. Today, we are having a conversation about medical billing certification and do you really need medical billing certification? So, if you're coming and joining me here into this space right now, are you already certified? Do you already have a billing certification? And if you don't mind, would you share with whom you have your billing certification? And maybe you'll also want to share whether or not you felt that was necessary for you to have the billing certification. If you're listening this on the replay, definitely put that in the comments below. I want to know if you found that valuable. I honestly have found mixed reviews when I've asked people this question. I know a lot of folks who find that billing certification was absolutely necessary for them in a specific specialty. So if maybe you're going into directly work in a hospital setting, maybe having worked in registration before and wanting to shift into coding, having a certification helped you along your way because typically certain environments require that certification, right? So today, let's talk a little bit about what me and folks like me that are hiring for new billers, what do we look for? And from my perspective, is it absolutely necessary and why or why not? Why is it something that I would recommend or why I would recommend against it? And those of you who aren't aware, I do own a medical billing company. I have run a medical billing company for 17 years now, and I've been in the billing field for over 20. Gosh, I don't even gonna age myself. I have to do the math. I started when I was 14. So it's been a long time. I'll just say that. It's been 25 or something years. 24 years still, I guess. So now you know my age if you do math. And so I've seen the industry shift and change quite a bit from kind of an exploratory industry, one that really didn't have a whole lot of structure around it because it was somewhat new-ish when I started, right? People were still figuring out what it meant to create a formal claim at that time, a formal document. It was really challenging because for many years when billing first started or when we started getting paid by insurance carriers, you could kind of send bills in any kind of way. So when there was more structure around the billing industry, when that started, there really wasn't a lot of certification or we'll say formal information for people who were new to the industry. Hi, Emily. Taking CPB class right now. I have learned a lot. You had 8 years of billing experience. You felt that the class helped you knowing the bit of basics of coding, whereas before you knew nothing. Yeah, that's a really great point, actually. I think that's probably one of the main benefits I would hear from folks who have been in the billing industry for a while and maybe are trying to shift from maybe an informal setting, working with maybe a friend or serving in a smaller practice and maybe wanting to move into a more formal setting where you're working for like a hospital system or a larger group practice. And so it really has a way of helping you feel like you get that foundation, especially those of us who learned on the ground, right? Like kind of on the job, like grassroots from the person who trained you while running around, also doing other functions in the practice. So yeah, I think that's great. And so, okay, here we go. I don't have your name. The Facebook user says I have a billing certification and a CPC. I started with no billing certification, just a diploma in billing and coding. However, it's where I have the most experience. Still thinking of taking the exam. Yeah. Yeah. And I wanted to look at specific coding and billing certifications. We'll do that during our next conversation together because I've heard from a lot of folks that have taken training with the different schools, right? Even some of these larger programs that are offering like somewhere between 2 and 4 years worth of knowledge on billing and coding, yet it doesn't quite come with a recognizable um, certification from AAPC, and I'll talk a little bit about that in the next training. Why I think it's really beneficial, no matter where you trained, that you go with a formal certification from an organization that is recognized, and it just saves a lot of time, right? Because unfortunately, even though the school, might have been tens of thousands of dollars and very kind of recognizable in your community and your state. In the billing world, it's a little different, right? We really care that you are connected to the industry. You're connected to staying abreast to like changes. I have seen curriculum from some of these really large programs. And it's kind of disappointing, like to see the curriculum and see that they're teaching sometimes outdated information, things that aren't really relevant. So we'll talk a little bit about that more in depth next time. So make sure you join. We are doing Friday happy hours. You guys asked for this time, Friday happy hour. I feel like I should have a drink with me. By the way, just putting it out there. I don't have anything to drink, so next time, remind me, someone in my Facebook group, to make sure I have a drink for Friday happy hour. Maybe I have to do it somewhere else outside of the office. But yeah, I'd like to at least make it like officially a happy hour with you guys. I've got water, so cheers. Um, so let's talk a little bit about medical billing certification and why I would absolutely recommend that you explore a medical billing certification. Um, it's not necessary, and I'll tell you when I think it's not necessary, but I'll also want to just kind of cover when I think it is something that you should absolutely explore. Hi, Sarah. Thanks for your comment. Let's see. I am a CPC and I would like to take the CPB next. I got my associate's degree in medical billing in 2014, and I've done both jobs. I can't choose which I like better. Yeah, that's great. That's great. There are not a lot of you, Sarah, that feel like they can do both and feel great about doing both, right? Because it can be, in some ways, because you are problem solving, it satisfies the same part of the brain that likes to research and uncover. But then on the other side, the billing world is can usually involve a lot of potentially involve a lot of interaction with patients, maybe with providers, things like that. That maybe as a coder you might be able to kind of, if you aren't into and really collaborating or interacting with a lot of other folks on the job, you could as a coder just code and send reports and send it to your supervisors and never have to even have a phone call with a patient or a provider directly. There are jobs like that. So if you are an introvert and don't love like socializing a whole lot on the job, just coming and getting your stuff done, coding might be a profession that you really, really enjoy. I think that it could satisfy both, though, Sarah, just in your point there. And I would say, like, if you're interested in doing the CPB, you would probably surprise yourself, since you've already done the associate's degree and the training in 2014. It's not too far off. I would totally recommend, you don't even need to take the training for CPB or the test. You could maybe even just go out and either purchase the book for the CPB, just review it, see what you find in there that maybe you didn't know, or just take the test. I think you might get one retake on the CPB. I don't recall right now. But you'll get a chance to kind of take some pre-practice tests as well in there if you buy the package that has the practice tests. I think it's worth it. It probably just gives you another opportunity there, maybe even to potentially, depending on your organization, bump your salary a little bit. Some of the organizations will pay a certain percentage higher each time you get a different, yeah, and for both personalities, it depends on the day. I could agree with that. I could see it for sure. Yeah, depends on the day for sure. It can satisfy both sides. So yeah, so I totally suggest, Sarah, that you go out there and take a look at the CPB. Even if you bought the package that has only the test and some practice tests, you probably surprise yourself with how well you do if you've already done that much formal training in recent years. So yeah, so let's talk a little bit about from my perspective, and when I encounter folks that are exploring certification, what I typically recommend. And this is the thing is a lot of folks that come asking questions about billing and asking about certification typically don't have experience. So for starters, if you are coming fresh out of another industry completely unrelated to healthcare, I absolutely 100% suggest that you get a certification. You need the certification because it will set you apart from everybody else who is coming from retail or the restaurant industry with years of experience in those customer service related industries and zero experience in healthcare. We see a lot of resumes like that. I opened a job up. I think those of you who are in our Facebook group know this. We opened a job up maybe 3 days ago. We about have 400 resumes that have come in, and there's so many of those resumes that come in that just are folks that are not don't have a lot of experience. I'm not going to say a huge percentage, but there's definitely a large number, maybe 20 to 30%, that have zero experience and are interested in breaking in. And we immediately are going to shuffle those kind of towards the bottom of the list, not completely Xing them out, because I do training, right? but we definitely shuffle them to the bottom if we're looking for an experienced position. If somebody has no experience, let's say on the job, but has a training or has a certification where we know they've already had this foundational training, it makes it that much easier for us to get them up to speed, right? And when we have an immediate need, it's something that's necessary that we have the training work a little bit more smoothly, if that makes sense. You're welcome. Hey, Ashley, good to see you. You're welcome, Sarah. So that leads me to my first point, which is having a certification puts your resume to the top. It helps you make the jump towards the top of the list. And this goes kind of hand in hand with what I was saying earlier about having a certification from an organization like AAPC or AMBA. We'll talk about the different certifications next conversation together. But when you have a recognizable certification, we can see by your credentials the type of let's say qualifications that they kind of put you through, or the measures, right, by which you were. Because AAPC, those of us who hire often, we know the type of test that AAPC has and the AMBA, so it already helps us to set it aside and say, okay, we know this training, versus you having a certification in a medical billing and coding program that we aren't familiar with, even from a recognizable school. If we don't know the training, we don't know if it really challenged you in the right way and or gave you the most up-to-date information. And so it kind of makes it a little unsure. And we don't know if you passed, and we don't know how well you did, right? Let's just be frank. Like that's the truth there. So if you have a certification that has a recognizable credential, like the CPB we were talking earlier, we as leaders are really looking at okay, like we know that you have been introduced to more relevant and current information, potentially, depending on when you took it, obviously. And because you have to maintain your credentials, you are also potentially staying current on things that are relevant for the industry and maybe what you're being potentially being hired for. So that leads me to my second point, actually, which is helping you stay on top of your CEUs actually helps you stay relevant, right? We, as leaders, are looking at folks that we know are interested in keeping it fresh, right? Like everything is changing in healthcare. So if you are kind of falling into this pattern of like, well, I've done this like this for 10 years, or, this is, I've been doing this for X amount of years and nothing changes, then you're probably in the wrong industry, because healthcare is always changing. And there's improvements happening, even though some of them are slow. There are improvements happening. And so we want folks that are going to want to keep up with the times and change and help to cut costs where possible, right? To make improvements, to maximize on time and efforts, and not just be kind of like doing the same slow behaviors that maybe they have for the last 15, 20 years. So if you don't have experience, if you have years and years of experience and you don't have a certification, it can be beneficial based on specialty, but it also can work against you, because those of us who hire and who are leaders, we know that there's a whole subset of folks that have worked on the job for decades and never really did anything different. They might be still sending paper claims. They might be still manually posting payments. Like, I'm well aware of the fact that like there's a whole subset of community out there that is living in the Stone Ages when it comes to billing. And my company, we deal a lot with technology, very tech heavy, very tech forward, in the sense of like looking for new things to implement, always trying to make sure that we are able to maximize on the tools that exist, right? There's so much loss in healthcare, and by utilizing some of the tools, we can try to really minimize some of those losses for our clients. So we're looking at ways to stay kind of agile in that way. So it's really important to recognize that even if you've been in healthcare for years, it could actually benefit you to still get a certification, because you have to maintain those credentials. You're going to it helps to force you to like really continue to stay up to date, because we could go, listen, like time's like a blur sometimes as a biller, month to month, like your month end closing feels like it's like you blink your eye and it's the end of a month again, and you're closing accounts again, and you're doing, all the things to wrap up a month for a client or what have you. Like it just sneaks up on us. And so it could be like 2-3 years before you've been to your last training or your last anything really, like even webinar or something, right? Like it sometimes has a way of just like flying by without even realizing you haven't done any retraining. So this helps to keep you like basically forced to stay up to date, right? It helps to force you to like stay fresh. So I totally suggest that even if you have years and years of experience, just consider what it would be if you were to put yourself separate yourself from the habits that you've had, and maybe now, getting the certification just kind of raises the bar for you even personally. So yeah, my next point is just like it actually will help you feel more confident. Like, to be totally frank, like there is this thing that happens to us as billers, especially if you were taught by someone in the billing world in a practice, and you just kind of absorbed all of that knowledge and then have just been doing the job the way they taught you. Like you know what you know because of them, and you really don't necessarily have a way of like kind of certifying your knowledge. You're just hopeful that they trained you in the right way. You don't have a way to certify that knowledge unless you sit for this certification. Like it almost feels like, pat on the back, I know my stuff. And you like, all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, I really do know my job. Like I've been doing this for 8 years and took that certification and I passed it the first time. And, it feels good. So it helps you build your confidence. And if you were kind of hesitant to like really get out there, let's say you've been working at this job for some time and you're really over it, but you're a little nervous because you're like, I don't know what I learned here. And, it could be different in the real world, whatever. It really could give you that little confidence boost to push you out of the nest and help you find your way. So I totally suggest, like, just consider it. Consider it, because it will help you feel that sense of confidence, that sense of like self-worth and value that um, you probably wouldn't get in any other instance, because healthcare is a little bit of, we're a close-knit, closed environment. There's not a lot of enough, we'll say, development to help us stay like fired up and fresh and everything. So hi, Bilal. I hope I got that right. Hi, Bilal, good to see you. So let's talk about the very last thing that I have related to certification and why I think it is helpful for you to get a certification, and that is community. Not just this community, but also the AAPC or whatever organization that you certify with. Typically, you create this relationship with the organization where you probably are going to want to go to the annual conference, or you're going to want to be a part of forums or discussions or webinars. You start to get to know some of the other folks maybe in your area. Like AAPC, for example, has these local chapters that you can be a part of. And so it helps you to really be able to stay connected to these other organizations too, that are right in your community that may have a need in the future. You might be able to start networking with those individuals, and that might be the next position for you. You might be starting to shift in your career and know someone from your local chapter that can help you get that leg up, or that introduction to another industry, or another organization in your area. So I would totally suggest like deepening that relationship with the community that you've certified with, whether you certified with the group that you maybe don't have a lot available or something like that, doesn't really matter. You can still be a part of, like, if you certified with AMBA, you can still join the AAPC and be a part of the local chapter. You may not be able to do certain things without getting a certification. I know there are some rules around that, but you certainly can still be a part of your local chapter and active. They often will do things like play games online, play kind of these like trivia games, even on in person, where you kind of just keep yourself fresh and kind of enjoying a little bit more of what we do in our industry. So yeah, I can't say anything like more about billing certification other than to say, do it. If you're looking at doing it, I totally suggest it. 100% recommend that you get connected to your local chapter if you have one in your state or your city or your town, or start one if you don't. See how many members they might have in your town, and try to start a local chapter, because community is everything in all things, right? Not just in the healthcare industry, but in the entire world. Community is everything. So finding a way to stay connected, to stay in relationship with others, because through those relationships, really amazing things can happen. So listen, I told you guys at the beginning of this conversation that we are going to do this every Friday together. I had you guys do vote here on YouTube and on Facebook, in our Facebook group, which will be, I'll save that in the link after I save this video if you're watching this on other platform. And you guys voted for us to do this on Friday afternoons. So you're going to get my Friday happy hour attitude after I remember to bring a drink next time. And then maybe you guys will happy hour with me next time too. So it'll probably be somewhere between 4 and 5 window on Friday. So just stay tuned for those every time we post them. Next week, what we're talking about is looking at the different certifications that exist, and I will screen share and kind of walk you guys through the options there. I think it's helpful for you to get your eyes on it, and as I mentioned earlier, you can kind of get a picture of how active a particular community is, and what kind of things they have going on, like conferences and webinars on a regular basis, and even opportunities for you as you grow in the industry to also add value and really put yourself out there if you're interested, by providing some teachings and development for folks in your specialty or industry. So listen, I hope you guys have a spectacular weekend. Oh, and by the way, you guys voted. You really loved the game that we played. I think it was like New Year's or something. I don't even remember. It was it was a couple of months back. I think it was New Year's. You guys really liked that game that we played, so we are going to do that same game where we'll do some giveaways, and we'll play that on the first Friday of the month. So stay tuned for those days as well. There will be giveaways on that day, and yeah, next Friday I'll see you guys here. Same channel wherever you're watching. If you're on any of these channels, feel free to comment and let me know where you're coming in from. I will see all of those comments and get connected with you. Thank you guys so much for being here. Have a beautiful weekend. See you next Friday.